This is the story of a struggling young woman named Nkechi and a crippled beggar everyone laughed at. Nkechi was 24 years old and trying to make ends meet in Ajegunle, Lagos. She sold puff-puff, akara, and soft drinks from a small makeshift stall near the busy junction, built from old planks and rusted roofing sheets. Every morning, she set up before sunrise and walked until the last bus left. Just a few feet from her stall sat a man no one cared about, a crippled beggar with dusty clothes and a rusted tin cup. People mocked him. Some called him mad. Others acted like he didn't exist. But not Nkechi. Even with her small earnings, she made sure he ate something every day. A few akara balls, maybe a bottle of water, sometimes just a warm smile. Then, one morning, everything changed. There was a big tree near the roadside where many people came to sit and eat. Nkechi's kiosk was just beside it. She didn't have much. Her slippers were old, and her dress had faded patches, but she always had a smile on her face. Even when she was tired, she greeted people with kindness. "Good afternoon, sir." "You're welcome," she said to every customer, no matter how small their order was. Every morning, Nkechi woke up very early to cook jollof rice, beans, and sometimes yam porridge. Her hands moved quickly in the pot, but deep inside, her heart was heavy. Nkechi had no family. Her parents died when she was still a child. She lived alone in a small, dark room not far from her stall. There was no electricity, no clean water, just her food business, and her quiet dreams. One afternoon, as Nkechi was cleaning the bench in front of her stall, her friend Mama Chika walked by. "Nkechi," Mama Chika said, "why are you always smiling when you're struggling just like the rest of us?" Nkechi smiled again and replied, "Because crying won't put food in my pot." Mama Chika laughed and walked away, but her words stayed in Nkechi's heart. It was true. She had nothing, yet she still gave food to people, even when they couldn't pay. She didn't know her life was about to change forever. Because every afternoon, something strange started to happen. Every afternoon, a crippled beggar appeared from the corner of the road. He always came slowly, using his hands to push his old, rusty wheelchair. The wheels made a rough sound as they rode over the stones, creak, creak, creak. People passing by would either laugh or cover their noses. "See this dirty man again," one small boy said, shaking his head. The man's legs were wrapped in dirty bandages, and his shorts were torn at the knees. His face was dark with dust, and his eyes looked weak and tired. Some people said he smelled bad. Others said he was not okay in the head. But Nkechi never looked away. She called him Baba F. That afternoon, the sun was very hot in the sky as Baba F slowly pushed his wheelchair and stopped beside Nkechi's stall. She looked at him and spoke gently, "You're here again, Baba F. You didn't eat yesterday." He looked down. His voice was low and weak. "I was too tired to come," he said. "I haven't eaten in 2 days." Nkechi turned to look at her table. Only one plate of beans and yam porridge was left. That was the food she had cooked for herself. She paused for a moment. Then, without saying much, she picked up the plate and placed it in front of him. "Here, eat," she said softly. Baba F stared at the plate, then looked at her. "You're giving me your last plate again?" Nkechi nodded. "I'll cook something again when I get home." His eyes were watery, but he didn't cry. He just bent his head and started to eat, slowly and quietly. People passing by stopped and stared at them. "Nkechi, why do you always feed that beggar?" a woman asked one day. Nkechi smiled and replied, "If I was the one sitting there in a wheelchair, wouldn't I also want someone to help me?" Baba F came every day, but he never begged with his mouth. He didn't shout. He didn't call people. He didn't stretch out his hands for food or money. He would just sit quietly in his wheelchair beside Nkechi's wooden stall. His head always facing down. his hands resting on his legs. His wheelchair looked like it could break at any time. One of the wheels was bent sideways. While others passed by and ignored him, Nkechi did not. "I want," Nkechi said. Just then, a big black car drove up and stopped right in front of her stall. The door opened slowly, and a man stepped out. He wore a clean white shirt and dark trousers. His shoes were so shiny, it looked like someone had just polished them. He was tall and strong, with deep, serious eyes. Nkechi quickly stood up and wiped her hands on her apron. "Good afternoon, sir," she said politely. "Good afternoon," the man replied. But his eyes were not on her. He was looking at Baba F. The man didn't blink. He just kept staring at him for a long time. Baba F continued eating, but Nkechi noticed something strange. Baba F had stopped chewing. The man took a step closer and tilted his head, like he was trying to remember something. Then he turned to Nkechi and said, "Please give me 1 plate of jollof rice. Add meat." Nkechi quickly dished the food and handed it to him. But as he took the plate, he looked back at Baba F again. This time, his eyes looked uncertain, like he was thinking deeply. He opened the car door, got in quietly, and drove off without saying a word. The next morning, Nkechi woke up early as usual. She swept the front of her food stall and cleaned her wooden table. As the sun rose, she kept looking down the road. Any moment now, she whispered to herself, "Baba F will roll in." But the hours passed. No wheelchair. No Baba F. By noon, her heart started beating fast. She walked to the side of her stall and looked both ways down the busy street. Where could he be? Nkechi asked herself, her eyes scanning the road. She walked over to Mama David, the woman who sold fresh vegetables near her store. "Auntie, did you see Baba F today?" Mama David laughed and waved her hand carelessly. "That old man again. Maybe he crawled to another junction. After all, he no get legs." But Nkechi didn't laugh. Her heart felt heavy. She turned to 2 boys hawking sachet water down the street. "Have you boys seen the man in the old wheelchair today?" They shook their heads. "No, Auntie." She didn't stop there. She walked over to the bike man who always parked at the corner. "Oga, did you see Baba F this morning?" The man spat on the dusty ground. "Maybe he's tired of sitting in one place. Or maybe he's gone." Nkechi didn't say a word. She just walked back slowly to her store. Her chest felt tight. She sat beside her big pot of rice and stared at the empty spot in front of her wooden table, the very spot where Baba F always sat. But today, the space was just quiet and empty. Nkechi's eyes didn't leave the corner where Baba F always sat. All day, every day, for 4 days, she stared at that space. Still, no sign of him. She served her customers, but her smile was gone. Her laughter had vanished. Even her popular jollof rice didn't taste the same to her anymore. The aroma, once so comforting, now made her feel sick. Her thoughts kept circling one question. Did something bad happen to him? She whispered. That night, she sat alone on the thin mattress in the small room behind her food stall. Baba F never misses a day, she said. Even when it rains, even when he's coughing, he still comes. She stood up slowly and opened the small wooden window. The street outside was dark. The wind was cold. A tear rolled down her cheek. This wasn't just worry anymore. She was afraid. Something didn't feel right. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Deep in her chest, she could feel it. Baba F wasn't just missing. Something had happened. Something big, and maybe dangerous. On the 4th morning, Nkechi was sitting quietly in front of her shop. She was peeling onions and setting out her plates like always. The firewood crackled under the iron pot as water began to boil for the day's rice. Suddenly, a black car pulled up in front of our store. A tall man stepped out. He wore a bright red cap, shining leather shoes, and a crisp white kaftan that smelled like money. Nkechi had never seen him before. He didn't smile. He didn't greet. He just walked up to her table and handed her a brown envelope. She took it with both hands, confused. "Sorry, what is this?" she asked. The man didn't answer. He simply said, "Read it. And don't tell anyone." Then he turned, walked back to the car, and drove away. Nkechi shut the shop early that day. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She sat alone in her room behind the food store, the brown envelope resting on her lap like a sleeping snake. She had stared at it for hours. Now, she opened it. Inside was a single sheet of white paper. No name. No phone number. Just bold black words, typed and centered. "Come to Block 17, behind the old railway station. Come alone. 6 p.m. Don't tell anyone." That was all. No signature. No explanation. Nothing about Baba F. Nkechi read it again. And again. Her heart pounded. The old railway station. That place had been quiet for years. People said it was haunted. Some said criminals hid there at night. She stood up and paced the small room. "Is this a trap?" she whispered. But another voice in her head spoke louder. "What if this is the only way to find him?" She looked at the clock. 4:17 p.m. 2 hours left. She sat down slowly. Her mind was racing. Should I go? What if I disappear too? What if he's in danger, and I'm the only one who can help? She didn't know who sent the letter. She didn't know what was waiting for her. But she did know one thing. She had to decide. And soon. At 5:59 p.m., Nkechi stood in front of the old railway station. The street was quiet. Too quiet. Her hands were cold. Her legs felt weak. Then she saw it. A black jeep, parked in the shadows. A tall man in a grey suit stood beside it. He didn't smile. "You came," he said. "Get in." Nkechi hesitated. Then she opened the door and sat inside. The car moved. They drove in silence for what felt like hours. Finally, the gates of a massive mansion opened slowly. The compound was big, like something from a movie. Clean floors. Bright lights. Quiet guards. Nkechi stepped out, eyes wide. The man led her inside. Through a long hallway. Past golden doors. Then, she saw him. Sitting in a wheelchair, smiling gently, was Baba F. But he didn't look like a beggar anymore. His hair was combed. His clothes were fine. He looked like a king. Tears filled Nkechi's eyes. "Baba, I don't understand." He held her hand. "I was never poor," he said softly. "I was watching. I was waiting. And you, my child, you were kind when no one else was." Nkechi covered her mouth. She couldn't speak. "You didn't give because I looked rich," Baba F said. "You gave because you had love." Then he smiled. "From this day, you are my daughter." A servant stepped forward and handed her a key. "This is your home now," Baba F said. "Your life begins again." Nkechi cried. But it was joy this time. The poor food seller had just become the daughter of a hidden king. And her world would never be the same again.